Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Kesselman, and the whole Machon Tzmicha Chevra. Yeshakol for joining and making time out of your schedule. Kuvei Itim the Torah for Kinus Torah to learn some Torah on the Moed. I have a lot of hakaras to Machon Tzmicha. I didn't do anything alone, and had a lot of partners, a whole team, and so many people I learned from. And I probably only learned a small portion of things, but I learned a tremendous amount in doing so. So I merged them together. I want to learn the sugya of kol pinos shatapona lo yipona ela derech yamin. A person who's turning should only turn right. Question is, which way is right? You might think this is kind of obvious. We should be finished the shiur. You turn right. This is my right hand. Simple, done. Yashakor, Shama Yisrael, Kasha. The problem is, it's not as simple as we think. There's several Gemaras we're going to go through about the base of Mikdash, how they used to turn around the Mizbeach, and then we're going to get to about 20 minhagim. My goal is to try to cover as many as we could, and all the complicated machlokas about them. But just to put it out there, for example, the Samech Tzedek says when you light the menorah, you actually light it from right to left, the same way you write Hebrew. Now, I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands, but how many people do that? That's probably, in my understanding, not the most common. But don't worry, we're going to get to what the Samech Tzedek and then the Shulchan Aruch. We're going to try to get to what the poskim said about this, what the minhagim are about this, and why. It's pretty obvious. I know which side my side is right, and I know which side is left. What could be possibly the machlokas be about? So let's dive right into it. I'm going to share my screen periodically to explain some of the sources, because for some people, it'll be much easier to understand the directions with a presentation. Here we go. Starting from the top. This is this picture of the Beis HaMikdash of the Mishnah and Midos. This is a picture, just the bird's eye view of what the Beis HaMikdash looks like on Har HaBayis. There's a Mishnah and Midos, Parak Beis, that tells us when you go into the Har HaBayis, you go in whatever shar you're coming in, you go around on the right. You do a hakafa, a circle, going on the right. So imagine, it says with Parish Yisrael, it gives an example. Someone comes on the east, then you're going to go over to the north. Okay, so on this picture, if you follow my mouse, you're coming in on the east, you're going around the north, you go around towards the west, back to the south, and then you go out on the gate on the south. This way you don't come in the same gate as you go out, a different gate that you entered. Okay, but the basic idea is you go around the right. Problem is, this Mishnah doesn't clarify too much for us, because the Mishnah just tells you go derech yamin. So besides the Mishnah and Midos, it doesn't tell us exactly which way is right and which way is left. We just got to figure it out ourselves. We heard the Mishnah tell us derech yamin. Now we have to figure it out ourselves. Let's take a few more examples in the Gemaras. Another picture of how Har HaBayis looks like from the outside. The bottom we have the Azar Nashim, and then we're going to move our way into really next stuff is about the Azara. Okay, here's the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kodashim. We're going to focus a lot of time on now the inner, because this is where the Samech Tzedek starts, to focus on the Mizbeach Hazov, the innermost Mizbeach. There's two Mizbeachot, as you might be able to see here. We have an outer Mizbeach. There's one in the open and the outdoor. That's the big Mizbeach that we use every single day. And the inner Mizbeach is really used for the Ketores, okay, and for Hazos on Yom Kippur, okay? Before we get anywhere, to make things, just make sure we got everything straight, to get our right hands, left hands, get everything settled. We're going to talk a lot about clockwise and counterclockwise, okay? So anybody can look on their watch or at a clock. This is the picture. We know, everybody knows we got clockwise going this way, counterclockwise going that way, okay? You need a reminder. You can look at any clock here at the slide. Now, question is just an odd question, but it's a Torah question. Why is clockwise? Why did the world decide clockwise should be this way? Akash Baruch Hu, just people sitting in Rome 2,000 years ago decided, this sounds. In fact, no, they looked at the sundial. This is the original clocks. Bimei Hamishna. This is what if anybody's been to Eretz Yisrael one time in some places near the Shalvim area, sometime in the area of Yehuda, you can see ancient 2,000-year-olds from the days of the Mishnayos sundials that the farmers had to use to figure out when is it going to be Alos HaShachar, when is it going to be Seis, when is it going to be Nates, when is it going to be a good time in the year to plant. So this is what a sundial on the right side looks like. And basically, if you're in the northern hemisphere, Eretz Yisrael or New York or any place in the world is the northern hemisphere, your sundial is going to move clockwise. So then when people decide, let's make the Big Ben or make a clock, same story, they made it clockwise. Okay, now imagine you're the clock, you're the inside of the clock. Is the clock moving to the right? So we're gonna focus a lot about this, but we usually think of the clockwise, and we're going to talk about that when we're talking about lulav. Imagine you're facing east, and you want to shake lulav. Which way do you turn? So we'll say the minig olam. Even though we're going to get to the second side, we're going to get to the lush, we'll get to everybody else. Usually I think, oh, I know how to turn. I'm going to turn right. Turn, which is from east to south. That's clockwise. And go in this direction. That sounds so far so good. So usually we're going to think of clockwise as south. From east to south, which is usually right. We're usually going to think clockwise is right. And so far, sounds like we should do everything clockwise. That's going to be right. Well, okay, we're going to make it a little more complicated. Any questions, please join right in, okay? But we're going to get to right and left soon, but the Latin word for clockwise was dexter, was right. So like, it's possible we're on the right track. But either way, it doesn't matter what the Latin is. We're going to get to the Torah approach, but we want to know why is the clockwise the way it is. So in fact, it's because that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the sun go over the world in a way that is called clockwise. Okay, we're going to get back to this, but it's not random. It's, if you look into the Bria of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you'll see clockwise is the way the sun goes, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the world. Okay, if that's going to be right, then it's a good sign. It's a good remez, it's a good edus for us that we should be going this way. We should be going the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the sun going around the world. All right. Now here comes the Beis HaMikdash. Here's the Ikar Makoros to actually talk about our topic. So every day we brought a Korban Tamid, 2 Korbanos Tamid, and the Kohen would walk up the Mizbeach. The ramp was on the south side of the Beis HaMikdash, on the Azara, and he then turned on the Soviv, on this side here, like where that little Yazayin is going to the ramp. This is for the Chatas, not every single day for the Ola, but this is for the Chatas. Every other Korban, the Kohen would stand on the ground and do his Rikos. Okay, that's not our topic. Today we're talking about the Madnas Dam of the Chatas. What does the Korban Chatas look like? So the Kohen would walk up the ramp on the south side, make his way to the east, and do 1 sprinkling of blood in the first corner, in the southeast, Dromis, Mizrachis, and then make his way to the Mizrachis Tzfonis, and so on and so forth to the 4 corners. Basically going from south, east, north, west. Now, if you think about that, that's counterclockwise, okay? So this is the first thing we have to keep in mind. We were just thinking about how we're doing lulav, and we're thinking about, oh, clockwise is going to be our answer. You want to do everything right? Do everything clockwise, right? Turn to your right. But you look at the Mizbeach here, it's the opposite. Okay, but anybody have any answer for this? This is not going to be, this is not going to be our hardest kasha today, but this is something. Any answers? So I'll tell you what Rashi says, or what may be a simple solution, may help us out. It's not going to be the whole story, but this is going to help us out. Depends what you're facing. If you're facing a big structure like the Mizbeach, and you want to know which way you should turn, and you're going to encircle around a big structure, so then you have to make sure you're going to be going counterclockwise. Because imagine someone's walking around the Mizbeach, so they're walking up, and they want to know, should they go to the left, which would be going further to the west, or they go to the east, they're going to the right. Great, they should go to the right. And then they continue around that way. Okay, so that's why perhaps you're going to do the same thing. Now Rashi says, okay, that's not enough though. Maybe we have to think about, what about when you're in the east? Which way should you go? Should you go back to the south, or should you go to the north? Well, it may depend on the way you're facing. Well, if you're facing the inner part of the Mizbeach, same story. The right is going to now be towards the north, and you're going to continue that circuit. Okay, but that's not going to be so simple, but that's one approach, how we're going to figure out how we're going to do counterclockwise around the Mizbeach. That's the first Mar Malkum that's important to Cheshbon, to figure out how to walk around the Mizbeach. Answer is, we always walked around in a counterclockwise way, and maybe that's a tremendous precedent for everything else. Keep that in mind. That's step number 1. This is just an interesting pilpul question answer analysis that the Tosfos has about the Korban Ola. It's only 2 zrikos. Before we're talking about the Chatas, had every single corner, you had every single one, and the Kohen used to walk up the ramp. It went halfway up the Mizbeach and walked every single corner. But the Ola is a little bit different. You only have 2 corners. Shtaim She'em Arba, 2 which is 4. And the Mizrach Tzfon is the first one, and then Marav Drum is the other one. And question is, from the Shechita, which is all the way here where my mouse is, the top, which is the top right part of the screen, or the northwest area of the Shechita section, the base of Shechita, how are you going to get from there to the first corner? So that was Tosfos Kasha. Now, Tosfos says, imagine you have a person standing doing the Shechita and someone else doing Kabbalah Saddam, accepting the blood. Then which way is going to be going right? Well, he says, imagine you're standing here. I put a little person there in the picture pointing to the right. So it's going to be going around the Mizbeach. Says Tosfos, wait a minute. Which corner are you hitting first? You're going to first come to Maravitz Bones, Maravitz Dromes, but at least Maravitz Dromes, Mizrachas Dromes, you're going to come to the southwest corner, the southeast corner before you get to the northeast corner. Why am I doing a Zrika on this corner, Mizrachas Bones? I should first do it on any of the corners I hit first, because I should pass over a mitzvah. That's Tosfos' question. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free. Or if you want to give me a thumbs up, you hear my question, hear the question, Tosfos gives a thumbs up. Otherwise, don't lose hope. We're going to make this more simple and clarify with Minhagim, with all the pshita. It'll come straight. Everything should become simple. This is Tosfos Kasha is if you're going right from where you did the shchita and the slaughtering of the animal, and you're going to do sprinkling on the mizbeach, well then seemingly you're not going to be going to the first corner in the north. Okay. We got some thumbs up. All right. I hear someone to understand the kasha Tosfos is Tosfos Yuma Chav Tesam and Beis. Sorry, Tevav and Beis. Now the terutim of Tosfos are, well, one teretz of Tosfos is, well, maybe you did the shchita over here, according to Rabbi Shimon Atimni. So it is an answer for some Tana. You know what? If you do the shchita right next to the spot you want to throw the blood on the mizbeach, that's no problem. You worked everything out. But the problem is, but the Mishnahs and Talmud, the Stam Mishnah doesn't assume this. So that doesn't really help us too much for what we're actually going to be dealing with. Okay, there is just to add, why did Tosfos not even bring up these two corners, the Maravitz Tzfonis and Maravitz Dromes? He didn't bring up any of the western corners. So the answer, I think, is found in Rashi and in a different Tosfos on that day, is because we have to make sure we're starting by the ramp. It doesn't matter which korban you are. If you're a Chatish, you're going to walk up the ramp, but even if you're an Ola, you always position yourself starting from the south side. Okay, it's a hekish between the korbanos. Everything is starting the same place. Okay, so we're not really going to, there's no question we're going to do, we're not going to put the blood over there. Okay, anyway, that's Tosfos' answer over there, but it's not everybody's answer. Okay, the Rosh gives a different answer. He says, you have to make sure, I'm going to go to this and then come back. The Rosh says you have to make sure that you pour the blood, Shirei Adam, and Nishbachim of Karen Deromis. Yeah, on the south corner, you have to spill the blood into channels, holes in the mizbeach that were built to go down the wine libation or the extra blood spilled into them, and I had a big cavity that went into the hole in the ground where it collected and it stayed there. So that blood that spilled on that corner where the shitim are had to be the last sprinkling. So therefore, if you want to make sure that the last sprinkling is going to be the southwest, the only way to arrange this is if you're first going to hit the opposite corner in the northeast, and then hit the southwest. Okay, that's the Rosh Rabbeinu Hananel's answer. Okay, to this question, and the other answer is just a cute answer. It may just depend on which way the sheep is facing the Mishnayos and Talmud sort of spell this out. You could arrange it so you can have the right way going in this direction to the Mizrachis Tzfonis. Okay, it's possible to arrange. It's not against the Mishnayos. It would be an interesting answer. Okay, there's more answer to this question, but it's one of those topics that's an interesting question that very few people think about when they do the Ezer Makoman, but it's something to consider. If you want to be going right, how do you go from the place of the Shchita to the Zrikos? Okay. It's one of those things. Let's say the Chavetz Chaim, he wrote Lakutei Halachos on Kudshim, and he writes this question, but he says I explained somewhere else. Unfortunately, that page where he explained the answer is not found, so we don't have some of the Achronim on this question. We have some Rishonim who answered this question. Now, moving on to less complicated questions is another place in the Mikdash, and then we're going to move on to Minhagim. Next question is the Mizbeach HaPnimi, the inner Mizbeach. Okay, so over here on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol would come. He'd go into the Kodesh Kodashim, the inner sanctum, sprinkle some blood, exit on the south side, walk down to the Mizbeach, and then do 4 sprinklings. This is Rabbi Akiva's opinion. He'd sprinkle in this direction, this clockwise order. Now, if you think about the clockwise here, it's really moving from left to right. Now, the Gemara says, oh, wait a minute, that looks like he's going not Ruach, he's not going to Derech Yamin. So the Gemara says, you're right, Rabbi Akiva doesn't hold that you need to be going Derech Yamin, you don't need to be going to the right, that's fine, according to Rabbi Akiva, because he holds, you only have to go around with your feet, Hakafa Berega, when you're moving your feet, you have to go to the right, but when you're moving your hands, it doesn't matter. Or we only have this idea of going to the right when it's on the outer mizbeach, but not on the inner mizbeach. Okay, so that's the idea of Rabbi Akiva. Now we don't pass on Rabbi Akiva. We actually follow Rabbi Yosef Gula, the Stam Mishnah. The Stam Mishnah has the Kohen Gadol going in a counterclockwise day. The Gemara calls that going to the right. Okay, so this is the way that he goes. There's a very complicated Rambam who actually has like this Tan of Rabbi Yossi. But the problem is he has the Kohen not standing over here in this picture, which is perfect. He actually has him standing in the west, southwest, the corner number 3, and he's stretching over the Zech, and he's putting the blood in the other corners. It's a big problem in the Rambam. Why is he passing over a corner just to do everything towards the right? So, in fact, this question goes back ages. It goes back to the Rashba. He asked, the Eri asked the Rashba this question: how did the Rambam imagine the Kohen Gadol doing the Sukkos? And the Rashba wrote 2 long tshuvas, explained the whole Gemara and everything, and he basically says, I have no idea what the Rambam thought. I don't get it. The Mari Kurkas also gives some answers, very, very difficult. Well, he maybe did it this way, so you can go to the right, but he wouldn't get his clothes dirty. So that's why he did a stretching across the Mizbeach. It's kind of difficult answers. The Halachah Mishnah also gives an interesting answer. It's a little bit different than most people think. Anyway, long story short, it's a tremendous question, tumult. What did the Rambam think about this? Okay, but this is where the Samach Tzedek starts, exactly over here. And he says, you see from here, I'm going to be going from the right to the left. Is going to be, if you look at the Mizbeach and you want to go counterclockwise, what the Gemara calls to the right over here, and you want to extrapolate this from this to Chanukah, how would you do so? Says the Samach Tzedek. So same thing, just like the Kohen Gadol over here is going from corner 1, 2, 3, 4 in this picture, and that is considered going right. It's counterclockwise. So maybe you should also go from right to left. Makes a lot of sense. That's what the Samach says we should do with Chanukah, and we'll talk about other shitas. But now we're going to get to Minhagim to make ourselves a little bit less confused. Okay, so just now to extrapolate. All right, we had 2 times that the Gemara talks about turning around. One of them is around the outer Mizbeach, and one of those are around the inner Mizbeach. The common theme of both of them is if you want to go to the right, the Gemara is clear you have to go the counterclockwise direction. Now, that makes sense, let's say, when we want to figure out what are we going to do when we do Hakafos or Hashanos. Okay, we take our lulos and we want to go around the bima. Which way we should go? Says the Beis Yosef, you should go in the right direction, starting with the Aron. I'll show pictures about this to make it a little clearer. Starting with the Aron, you're going to be going right. Okay, that's fairly comparable, and it's going to be a counterclockwise circle. That makes sense. So he says the same thing, and he says some people make a mistake about how they take out the Torah, and people make a mistake about some of these things. But I want to clarify, it says Rabbi Yosef Karo, the author of the Shulchan Aruch, I want to clarify which way is right and which way is left. He says the same thing for Birkos Kohanim. This is where it really starts getting tensions. He says he's seen some Kohanim do the wrong thing. When they're ready, let's say they're facing, imagine I'm facing east, I'm facing the Aron Kodesh, and I want to be turning around. He says he saw some people turning this way, it says the Rizakara to the left, and he says this is totally wrong. They're Toa, the whole thing is a mistake. It doesn't make any sense. That they should be turning to their left is their left hand. They're turning to the left. Imagine they're facing east. Now they're turning to the north. Imagine you had a lulav and you were going to be turning. You're going to be turning this way. Says Rizakara, no such thing. Of course not. You have to go to your right hand. However, that's in the 1500s. The end of the 1500s, Rizakara, the author of Shulchan Aruch. And in fact, he gets quite a lot of consensus on his hand, but nothing comes to that machlokas. Comes along the Lavush, who's a student of Rav Moshe Israelis, a student of the Ramah. The Lavush talks about this, I think, in no less than 6 places in Shulchan Aruch. He talks about Birkos Kohanim and Gegen Aliyah and Lulav and Chanukah. He talks about it in all the different places. He says, just to take one step back, he says, not everybody's a mistake. Instead of making the whole minhag, the whole world a mistake, let's understand things correctly. Wait a minute. Why are you telling him you should turn to the right? In fact, he should really be turning to his left. What we call in English turning left, says the Lavush, that should be derech yamin. Why? Because that's going to be counterclockwise. He says, look, the Samach Tzedek, he's before the Samach Tzedek, says the Lavush, you look at the Mizbeach, which way do they turn? They turn counterclockwise. So if I'm turning, imagine I was a dreidel and I'm turning, I've got to be turning counterclockwise. Same thing with my lulav. So according to the Lavush, in fact, I'm just going to show you how do you shake lulav. You take your lulav, you take your lulav, your esrog, and if this you're facing, you're going to actually turn this way. Okay, and that's Lavush's opinion. of how you'd actually turn. There's Zucaro, the Shulchan Aruch says this way. Now, in terms of minhagim, the minhag ha'olam, I would say almost everywhere. I'm not saying I'm not paskening, but the minhag ha'olam usually is we turn, like Zucaro said, to the right. That's what the Magen Avraham and the Shulchan Aruch Arav, the Alter Rebbe, and that's what the Mishnah Brura, and that's what the Chai Yodam, that's what many Achronim all go with. The Chasam Sofer all follow the approach of Yosef Karo, not like the Lavush. Okay, so now, Semos had aside for a minute. That's what usually we do when we want to shake lulav. We're going to take it, we're going to turn to our right. The question is, Lavush had some good questions, and I'll just pound on the questions, okay, before we get to our time quickly. So he says two other kashas. He says, wait a minute, which way do you ever write Hebrew? You write from right to left. And according to Yosef Karo, he says, what are you going to do about Hanukkah? He says, Yosef Karo says, what do you do about Hanukkah? He says, there used to be two minhagim in Germany that the Trumas Nation quotes, B'nai Reinus and B'nai Oisrech, and they had two minhagim. How do you like Hanukkah candles? You like Hanukkah from left to right or right to left? And says the Shulchan Aruch, I know which one's right. You got to do the way that's Derech Yamin. You got to be moving left to right, the way you write English, because that way it's going to be moving in the right direction. And that way you're going to be going towards your right hand. Perfect. Says Lavush, what are you talking about? The point is you have to start on your right. When you're going to start on your right, so you go from right to left. That's the point. You want to go counterclockwise. So now we have the Lavush by Hanukkah and Lavush by Birkas Kohanim. But to summarize the Lavush's opinion, he has three questions about how you're always supposed to go counterclockwise. One of them is the Mizbeach. Two is the way we write Hebrew. Hebrew is written from right to left. And three, he says, naturally, which way do people turn? If you ask someone just to start walking, which way would people go? So people tried this, Goyim did a research study. If you want to find which is a person's main foot, dominant foot. So most people are right-footedness. If they ask them just 10 people, 100 people on a line, and you told them to take a step forward, so 56 of them most people would take the right foot forward, 22 would take the left foot forward, and the other 22 would just be confused and every time switch off. Okay, there's quite a few people confused in our world, but Lamaisa, most people are right-footed. That's a little bush. But forget about the studies. It's irrelevant to the studies. We know what it says in the Gemara. The Gemara Menachos Alamid Alamid says, Ki akar inish kare, biyamine akar beresha. Which foot does a person pick up first? His right foot. And in fact, that's actually critical for the halachas. You want to know which way you put up a mezuzah? And the right side or the left side? The Gemara says it's a drasha deraisa. It's very important we know this. It says, Vesecha is the way you go in. Gemara says the same way you go in, the way you should put up a mezuzah. Which way do you go in? Says the Gemara, derech biyascha. The way you go in is the way you put up a mezuzah, and that's derech yamin. That's on the right side because you take your steps first with your right foot. Now it's not identical lefties and left-footedness, but sometimes they're related, but not always. But either way, for the Gemara, for the Metzias, for we assume the majority of people in the way of the world is right-footedness, that people take their first step right. Says Lulavush, that's his third proof, besides the Mizbeach, and besides the way we write Hebrew. His third proof that we have is, you want to have a strong rope, you have 3 twines. He says the third proof that we're going to go to the right is because that's the way people pick up their foot first is to the right. And if you want to turn around, which foot are you going to use? So if you want to turn to the right, you actually pick up your left foot first. And if you turn to the left, you're picking up your right foot first. Says Lulavush, you actually should be turning to the left if you want to be going Derech Yamin. Okay, that's Lavush. And in fact, the Semitic liked this. He quoted the Taz by Hanukkah. Okay. And unfortunately, there is no Shulchan Aruch on that Simon by Hanukkah. I couldn't find it. But I don't believe there's the Minhag Chabad either way, like the Semitic said. That's the Lavush's opinion. It didn't fall on deaf ears, though. The Lavush had this opinion in the 1600s, and he says, Rizikari turned the whole world into people making mistakes. I'll tell you the pshat. The Ramami Panim, who is Rabbi Menachem Azaria from Italy, a big Makubal. He writes on Kabbalah. He was in fact also one of the people who published the Shulchan Aruch. He was the contemporary of Yosef Karo, much younger. He took the galleys and he put it into the printing. He got into the printing press, and he was one of the people that has some klolim on Shulchan Aruch because he lived at that time and he was the one who printed the Shulchan Aruch. Anyway, so what does he say about this topic? So he wrote entire countries, Yamin Hashem Romama, about this topic about turning to the right. And he says, you want to know who's right? He writes Alpi Kabbalah and Sod, and he explains all the psukim, a whole story. But Ramami Pano says the Lush is correct. Everything is counterclockwise. He says the Gemara doesn't say just time you should turn to the right. I'm missing one word. Chol pino pone ela derech yamin lemizrach. It doesn't just mean to the right, whatever I think is right, or whichever way I'm facing. No, it's nothing to do with that. Says the Rami Pano, it's objective. You have to be going counterclockwise, which is if you're going counterclockwise, if you're facing south, like the Mizbeach was, the ramp, then you have to go from the south to the east, counterclockwise. That's the Rami Pano, that's the Lavush, that's the Samosadik, that's the Taz. That is in the 1600 a popular opinion. You go counterclockwise, doesn't matter which way you're facing, you're always going to be going counterclockwise. Doesn't matter if you're going around a big structure, around yourself, you're always going counterclockwise. Now, however, it did face a lot of criticism. Not everybody agreed, and they wrote very, very much with Harifus. And the Roman Pano defends himself in his second kuntris. Yamin Hashem Osachayil. He writes another kuntris. You should go back the same way. You should be turning left to counterclockwise, and it goes back and forth. And the Rami Pano basically says he thinks that everybody else make a tremendous mistake, learning the Mishnayos, learning the Gemaras, but Lamaisa, the Chassid Sofer, the Alter Rebbe, the Mishnah Berurah, most of the poskim don't follow the Bush at all. And it's even so much, not even a herd of Shita today when we're talking about shaking lulav that we're going to actually turn to the left. What about the questions, though? Volvish had some good questions. So here's the screen to show us how do we answer the questions, how we apply to our 20-minute hugim, and we're going to wrap it up, try to organize it. I'd love to take any questions as we go. So here's the shaking lulav. Just to get this straight, so everybody knows what I'm talking about. How do you shake lulav? Okay, halachah l'maisa. Do you want to know? So you're going to be the picture on the left. Okay, whether you do the Arizal or you do the Arizal's on the right, the Ashkenazim do on the left. I think Chabad usually does like the Arizal. Very nice for them also do that. It doesn't change the direction you're going to be turning. They just go. I'll just show you. For example, I'm facing east. I'm going to be pretend I'm going east. I'm facing east. Now I'm going to be showing the Arizal one. I'm going to be going first to the south. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm turning around. I'm going to the north. Then I'm going to go forward, up, down, and back to the west. Okay, that's the way that the Ari would do. The Ashkenazim would just do one circle instead of two circles. All right. Either way, which way are you turning? You're going to be turning to your right, not turning to the left. That's the Miniga Olam, not like the Lavush. Okay. Now, what about the questions? Here says the Malbusha Yantiv is the Tosas Yantiv, also 1600s. He has a commentary on the Rush called and a commentary on the Mishnayos, Tosas Yantiv, and very often quoted. What does he say about these questions? So he says 3 answers to 3 questions. The main crux of his point, and this is really Yosef Karo's Shita, is it depends on what you're facing. It's so simple. It's not objectively you want to be going counterclockwise. It doesn't matter where you are. No, it depends on what you're facing. It's very simple. It's very intuitive. If you're going around a structure, around a bima, and you want to go to the right, so then you're going to be going counterclockwise because you're facing the bima on the inside. You want to go which way is right. You want to go to the right, so it goes counterclockwise. It makes a lot of sense. Very intuitive. If you're facing something, you want to go around it, you want to go to the right, you're going to go counterclockwise. But if you're turning around yourself, so you're facing outward, you're not facing inward, you're not facing a bima you're going to be circling, you're just facing outward. Whenever you're facing outward, so now, which way is right? So now it's not, I'm just turning myself. I'm not turning around anything. I'm just turning myself around, I'm pivoting. So that's going to be clockwise. That's the way to go right, according to the Shulchan Aruch and Malbusha Yantiv. It's very intuitive. It is good pshat in Rashi. In Zvachim, Rashi says, he doesn't know why it says, Pone Yamin LeMizrach, it turned to the east. It's relevant one time that it's to the east. So Rashi really doesn't say it depends on east per se. It's not objectively. You always have to be following what's in the Mizbeach. No, you have to be going wherever you are. So that's the Pashup Pshat. That's the idea of the Malbusha Yantiv. Now, what about the question where we write Hebrew? So he says, I'll tell you an answer. Moshe Rabbeinu went out of Sinai and he saw the Torah being given. So he asked Hakadosh Baruch Hu to give him the Torah, and he saw the way Hakadosh Baruch Hu was writing the letters, and says the Malbusha Yantiv, you know which way Hashem was writing the Torah? Hashem is writing the Torah backwards. He quotes the Rikanti, the Rokeach, others that say this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the world, the Lubavitch Rebbe talked about this, that the original Torah, so to speak, in Shemayim was written Tasharak backwards. The Bria was made, the world was made, so to speak, in a backwards aleph base. Tasharak, Tav, Shin, Reish, Kof. And the way we got the world is a little bit different. Aleph base, Gimel Dal, in a different order. It may have to do with Din and Chesed, not for now. But in Shemayim, maybe Hebrew was written from left to right, and Moshe Rabbeinu saw it backwards. In our world, everything gets flipped. We see everything the aleph is the regular direction, but that's from the way we write Hebrew is right to left. Okay, so it's not a kasha the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us to. He told us go derech yam. You want to know which way to turn lulav? Turn to the right. The way we do Hebrew, Hebrew is different. That's just because that's the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up the world. Our world is a little bit backwards from the Shemayim world. Obviously, this is much deeper. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't write, and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. His hand, Hashem doesn't have any hands, but it means kiviyachol, so to speak. Hebrew is different in the Shemayim in the upper chambers, the lofty chambers of heaven. Third question: what about the natural thing? Simple answer. Who said we have to be following what everybody else does? You're right. When you want to turn to the right, you have to make up your left foot first. That's natural that people go with their right foot first. So you should be going left. Says the Moshe, opposite. Hashem wants us to go in the opposite way of the world. People go to the left. That's very nice. People want to turn. They want to turn to the left. We should be going the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. So what if it's harder? That's what Hashem wants. Hashem wants from us to be listening to Him and to go the opposite way from what other people are doing. Now, the way the Mabushi Yanta the Chazal will give a geschmack of their second answer to the Hebrew question. Think about this. How do you write Hebrew? Do you write Hebrew from right to left? Says the Mabushi Yanta, no. Look at the way a sofer writes a shuris. Look at this. And it's true for every single letter in the Hebrew alphabet. This is the meaning of the way it's so from right. The righty sofrim, lefty sofrim do it a little different. But this is the way that the normal way you write a sofer. You start on the left and go to the right. The same way the English is written is the same direction. Derech Yamin, you're following to writing. The same way we light Hanukkah candles, you're writing the letter. You start on the left side and you drag the quill to the other side to the right. Okay, that's a geschmack answer. That in the small, so that's what Chazal says. Whenever you're rotating in the smaller unit, we have to be going left to right. You got to be going clockwise. If you're talking a bigger unit, the big aleph is the whole Sefer Torah. So then Enochanami, from in the columns of the Torah, you're going to be going from right to left. So we're talking about small units like lulav or like by the Birkas Kohanim or Chanukah. Then you're going to be going. And then you're going to be going, small units, going to be going to your right, to the clockwise, as opposed to big units like the Hakafas, like the Hoshanas, they're going, taking out the Sorah, then you're going to go in the exact opposite, you're going counterclockwise. Okay? That's like a Shema answer. Here's a Kafos, I think the 770, whatever, no, not 770, Chabad, Kafos. We always go, the minute when you do Kafos, counterclockwise. Okay? Taking out the Torah, same story, counterclockwise. This is the minhag olam, the way people take out the Torah. You go to the right, not like the lavush. This is everybody agrees with. Even the lavush would be very happy with this. This is counterclockwise because we're going around a big structure. Shalma Yisrael, everybody's very happy. We make it the same way. We go around the bima, going to the right. Okay, going this way, go in a circle. This is the Churva synagogue in the old city. Okay, this is a little person showing us going on the right. Very nice. Taking out the Torah, same story. Putting away the Torah, same thing. Coming in on the right. That's 770. Okay, now Hanukkah candles fits in the same pattern, the same idea. Now this, I believe, is the minhag Chabad is like Shulchan Aruch on this. So we go from left to right the way we write English, like the Malush Yantiv explained to us in Shemayim. They're going this way when they write the Torah, or in each individual letter that we go this way. So we're going from left to right, whether you're writing inside or outside. The Lavush does the exact opposite. And the Gra is an interesting sheet in between, not for now. But that's the idea of lighting Hanukkah candles. It follows the same pattern. Now, here's a big summary to put everything into perspective. If this is overwhelming, don't worry, you don't have to memorize it. It's not on the test. Here's the different types of turning around. Now, let's put this in perspective. And this is amazing how many minhagim we have around turning. So, when we talk about turning around the Mizbeach, it's counterclockwise. And here we have Shalma Yisrael on the leftmost column in this first box over here. We have everybody agree. The Mizriko to the Mizbeach, counterclockwise. Taking out the Torah, Hakafos, Shoshanos, same thing. Neti Gabriel, or sinner, has a Gishmak thing. Same thing about Kala going around the Chassan, should be the same thing. And he says in Vijnitz, he says that's the minhag that they go around the Kala around the Chassan, counterclockwise. That's the way Derek Yamin is. Now, he said he saw in the Sfarim that the Munkach minhag go the opposite way. Okay, look, it's not because he says maybe it's they're following the Levush. The problem is it doesn't fit with the Levush either because the Levush always says counterclockwise. So it doesn't really, okay, in the end of the day, that minhag is just time a minhag. They can have it whichever way they want because it's not real din that the Kala has to be going on the Chassan. Fine. Choosing paths, which way you're going to go to get an aliyah. Shulchan Aruch says you're going to get an aliyah, and there's two roads in front of you. You can go which way. You should go to the path that's to the right, not to the left, to the right. That's if they're equal. But if they're longer, you should go the shorter path. That's the Shulchan Aruch. And the Gra and the Chassidus over don't like that. They say you should go to the right. Who cares if it's longer? You should go to the right. And that's an important discussion. But because Chametz, to go room to room, which way should you go? So this is some of the very modern Achrom say maybe you should also go to the right. You have two rooms to choose from. You should pick the room that's on the right. Now, the B'dikas Chametz is a new modern Chiddush. I don't know if that's Ma'aki that's so critical, but that's just a Chiddush. Here we have there so far we had no Machlokas. The third box down here, taking a step first. This is certainly not Ma'aki, but just a cute thing. Nita real quotes it that it's a nice from the Sukkos Yisrael. Maybe walking down the aisle, people have a minhag or something that they take the right foot first. According to Malbush Yadav, you should take your right foot first. Now, even if it's not because it's Ponei Derech Yamin, because of our Sukkah, it could be true just because of you want Chesed, you want right to be overpowering over the din of the left side. That's a Kabbalistic idea. But that's a cute idea. It's certainly not Ma'aki. It's certainly not so critical, but it's a nice idea. The end of Shmona Esrei is exactly the opposite. You're taking your steps back. We take our left foot first, the Magen Ram says, because we want to show, the Beis Yosef says, what do you mean? There's no idea of Derech Yamin over there. What's the problem? You're not turning anywhere. You're just taking your foot. You're moving left foot, right foot. It's not called Pona. You're not turning anywhere. There's nothing to do with right. No, you can do whichever one you want. However, the Prisha, the Moshe Stern, Rabbi Moshe, he has a tshuva. He says it's very nice what the Beis Yosef says. It probably doesn't really matter which foot you take first. However, in terms of Derech Yamin, since our minhag is when we talk about Chanukah candles, even though we're not turning anyway, we still want to go to the right. So same thing over here. We want to use our left foot. Now we should have used the right foot, but the reason we don't, as the Magen Ram says, because we want to show that it's hard for us to leave in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so we take the left foot first. Now here we get to the machlokas. The third column we get to real machlokas, Birka Kohanim for the Shleach Tzibur, which way he's going to turn if he's bowing directions. So we usually the minhag is a lot of poskim have him turn to the right. The Birka Kohanim for the Kohanim, which way they're facing when they do the Yivarecha, they turn to the left and the like. So they actually do left right. So that might be totally on this machlokas levush. Some people have there's no minhag at all to bow for that, but for those who do, some Sfarim have a minhag to bow, so they do it right and then left to do the right side first. And Shmona Esrei is the opposite. We want to be leaving Kadosh Baruch Hu's presence. We want to go left and then right. Birkas Kohanim, the same thing the Ramah says when you're getting an aliyah in the Torah, you want to make the bracha by turning to the left. And then when you're done with the bracha, you say Natan Lanu. After you're on the aliyah, you turn to the right because the same thing. It's like you're in front of Hashem, so you turn left and right. Opening the parocha, which way should you do it? Should you left to right, right to left? That too, the Prisha says it's totally on the same exact way. We light Chanukah candles. Since our minhag is that we light Chanukah left to right, the Pashas, so we should open the parochas that way. However, most people are not so makban on that, like the Be'er Moshe says in his shul. They don't do it that way, even though he says Lechachil, if you're starting a shul, you should have to do it that way. Shabbos candles. Rabbi Zilberstein brings us up. Maybe that should also be the same thing. However, Lamaisa, people are not knowing so much like that because it could just be one reason is you don't want to drive people crazy because we have a different thing of in over and elements. You want to pass over the candles. So yes, maybe there's a theoretical concept by the Shabbos candles. Chaim Kanievsky said ulai. Maybe there's a reason, but it could be just the women are not so excited about random chumras that are going to drive them crazy going to the right when they're lighting the Shabbos candles like the Chanukah candles. But that's the ideas. Okay, now I wanted to add one cute thing that may help us remember this remez the way we follow Shulchan Aruch is about the clockwise the way the world is set up. Is it may be not random the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the world. Hashem made that the sun goes over us clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere, and that's why sun's dials and that's why clocks actually do that. However, if you think about the world rotating on its own axis, if you were standing on the North Pole and you were looking, you'd see it was counterclockwise. Or in the bigger picture, the Earth around the sun, in fact, is also counterclockwise. Why? It could just be for the same reason. So to speak, in the way we see things in our world, the Torah is written. The way we write Hebrew, right to left. But in Shemaim, in certain, in different perspectives, it's exactly the opposite. It's right, it's left to right by Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the way the world's turning. That's where the world, the the earth turns around the sun. That's just a cute remez that from a different perspective, the world's turning exactly the opposite direction from the way we have it. So the lessons we can learn from today are just the Musar Haskel is that the Moshe Yanta told us we don't want to be turning the same way that naturally we're turning. We turn the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be turning. And some things where we see it is not really what it really is. Pnimius. Sometimes the Pnimius is exactly the opposite of the way it is on the Chitzonis, on the outside. Why? Perhaps Histakel the Oraita V'Bar Amal HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked into the Torah and built the world. So Hashem built the world around the Torah. So we should see Torah in the world. Well, let's say we see the sun rising. We know that's turning to the right. That's turning clockwise. That teaches us the lesson of Kolpinos, Shachapona, Derech Yamin. Just this lesson we should work with the Kodesh Baruch Hu all our days. And let's say the Kohen Gadol used to leave the Kodesh Kodashim. We see Torah b'yamina, Osher Rechava b'smola. You would see Orch Yamin b'yamina. He would see the menorah on his right side, but because he's coming from the Kodesh Kodashim, his perspective is correct. So the Shulchan, the Gashmi is on the left, and the menorah is on the right. But if someone else coming from the world, it's exactly the opposite. You get the opposite perspective. You don't get Osher B'Chavod. You get Osher B'Chavod B'Yamina because the Gashmis of the world puts that on their right. Okay, Yashikal, have a good Moed. Any questions? I'm happy to take. Okay, let's see. To light candles left to right is because we understand we're going right means we should turn towards the right. Oh, Yashikov. Rabbi Mendikon here has a good ha'ara. The reason that we light candles going to the left to right is because we want to be going towards the right. Yes, that's true. That's Karushita. That's not the Sanal Sadek, but that's what that's the Alter Rebbe. That's what that's the minhag. That's correct. That's what we do. Yashikov.
Can you read them out loud just for the report?
Oh, let me read it out loud so people could read them. Sorry, so let me make this clear. Rabbi Mendikon had the fact that we rule that with light Chanukah candles left to right is because we understand that going right, Derech Yamin, means that we should move towards the right. Excellent. That's a great way to summarize it, Yashikov. Levush would say it's like you start in the right, and then we go wherever you go. That's not the way we hold. We hold exactly like Mendikon pointed out. We go towards the right. That's absolutely correct. Rabbi Green has a hara. Is it correct to say that the machlok is regarding the case where you're turning in the circle boils down to whether turning means starting on the right and go from there counterclockwise versus move towards where you are towards your right counterclockwise. Let's see. It's hard for me to figure that out. I think that is a correct way to say it. The main machlokas cases is when you're turning yourself, not turning around something. And when you're turning yourself, then I think that is a good way. I'm just going to say in different terms. I think Rabbi Green hit it on the head. Is that to say for the Shulchan Aruch, the way we are knowing is you're going towards your right, and the Lush says that your moshach yamino eitz low. You have your body move, and you want to bring your right towards you. So I think that is correct the way you said it. Okay. Any other ha'aras? Yasher koach. Have a good Moed.
Okay. Yeah. Yasher koach, Rabbi Sultan. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you do have any other questions and you're afraid to ask, you're intimidated, you can let me know, and I'll pass them on to Rabbi Sultan. Yasher koach, everybody, for joining once again. Shiur tomorrow, the last shiur, same time, same place, same Zoom link. You can share it with your friends, etc. And we'll go from there. Yasher koach, everybody. A good Moed.
I just sent a link on the chat for people wanting to review some of the makors I had.
Oh, all right. There's a link on the group chat. Anyway. See that. All right. Yasher koach. Good Moed. Hatzlacha Rabban.